Imagine the most expensive, like high-stakes outfit you will ever put on your body in your entire life. You are spending a literal fortune on the fabric, the tailoring, all the accessories.
Right, it's a massive investment.
Exactly. Now imagine that the ultimate goal of wearing this masterpiece is to make absolutely sure no one looks at you.
It's wild, right? It completely upends our whole modern understanding of fashion. I mean,
Yeah.
we are just so conditioned to treat our closets as a tool for personal branding.
Yeah, a way to project your internal identity outward, like here I am.
Exactly. You wear a bold color or a sharp cut to command the room. But the philosophy we're exploring today, it operates in a totally different universe where clothing isn't a personal statement at all. It's a deeply sophisticated social language.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. We are getting into the incredibly intricate and honestly sometimes baffling hierarchy of the Japanese kimono.
And we have some amazing source material for this.
We do. We are looking at a translated masterclass from a true veteran of the kimono industry. And what I love is that this isn't from some academic studying textiles in a library.
No, not at all. This is a salesman, a guide who has over 30 years of experience on the actual front lines.
Yeah, he spent 3 decades traveling the entire length of Japan. We're talking from Sakata up in the snowy north all the way down to Kagoshima in the south.
Right, and he was specifically outfitting VIP clients for the elite special selection departments of major department stores.
Which is why his perspective has so much practical weight. I mean, the source explicitly notes that his views might occasionally differ from, like, strict traditionalists.
Yeah, or other professionals in the field.
Yes.
But he's not dealing in theory here. He's dealing in reality.
Right. His ultimate metric for success was just ensuring his clients were perfectly dressed for their specific occasion and, totally shielded from any social embarrassment no matter where they were in the country.
Keeping your client from sticking out in a bad way is basically the ultimate test of a wardrobe consultant. But before we can fully grasp the philosophy, like the core why of the kimono, we really need to map out the rule book.
Because it is strict.
Very strict. It dictates everything. So let's start at the absolute pinnacle, the top tier of formality.
Okay, let's unpack this. Lay out this highest tier for us.
So the apex of the hierarchy is called Daiichi Reizu, which literally translates to highest formal wear. But, unlike Western dress codes where white tie means basically the same thing for everybody, this top tier is entirely dictated by your stage in life.
So it's sort of like a built-in life stage tracker.
Exactly. So for a married woman attending a celebratory event, the ultimate garment is the kurotomedesode. Historically, it was known as idozuma.
And the visual language on this is just unmistakable. It's a stark black base, right?
Yes, solid black, and it typically features 5 family crests. So that's 1 on the back, 2 on the back of the sleeves, and 2 on the chest.
Wow, 5 crests. And the patterns are only in one specific spot, aren't they?
Right. The defining feature is that these beautiful, elaborate patterns are restricted entirely to the hemline, nothing on the top half.
Which is so intentional. Because keeping the upper body solid black and anchoring all that heavy, gorgeous pattern at the hem, it physically grounds the wearer.
It does. It projects this real sense of maturity, stability, and quiet dignity.
Is there a morning version of this too?
There is, yeah. At this same level, the morning variation is a solid black 5-crest dress, but completely without those celebratory hem patterns. But for joyous occasions, the kurotomedesode is the absolute peak for a married woman.
Okay, wait, so what about the unmarried counterpart? Because the contrast there is pretty staggering.
Oh, it's night and day. If you're an unmarried woman, you wear the furisode.
Right, instead of that grounded black canvas with patterns at the ankles, the furisode is the one famous for its really long flowing sleeves, right?
Yes, very long sleeves and bright, sweeping patterns that cover the entire garment. It's visually loud. It takes up much more physical space.
So if you look around a room at a formal event, it's not just that everyone looks fancy. The clothing is literally broadcasting everyone's exact marital status.
It creates a brilliant visual map of a woman's social life cycle. But, and this is a really fascinating nuance from the source, the transition from the vibrant furisode to the black kurotomedesode isn't always like a hard binary switch.
Right, it's not like the second you sign the marriage certificate, you have to immediately throw on the black dress.
No, there's a built-in psychological grace period.
Yeah.
The source explains that if a woman is newly married but hasn't had children yet, she has a choice.
Oh, wow. So she doesn't have to instantly wear the kurotomedesode.
Exactly. She can still choose to wear her furisode, or she might opt for a humandi, which is a formal visiting dress, before she fully transitions.
I love that. It adds such a profound human element to what seems like, a super unyielding system.
It really does. Society recognizes that moving from one life stage to the next is a monumental shift. So the wardrobe actually gives you breathing room.
A transitional phase to acclimate to your new social standing. But okay, if the very top tier is that meticulously defined by life stages, what happens when we move one step down the ladder?
Well, things definitely get a little fuzzy. We enter this category where regional pride actually starts to clash with the national rules.
I find this part so interesting. So just below the black kurotomedesode, you have the irotomedesode, right? The color tomedesode.
Yeah. And in the grand timeline of the kimono, this is actually a relatively recent invention. It follows the same structural rule as the black one, iso patterns exclusively along the hem, but the background can be dyed literally any color other than black.
And its formality level kind of acts like a chameleon, doesn't it? Like it shifts depending on how many crests it has.
Totally depends on the number of family crests and how it's tailored. But the most compelling detail from our veteran seller is how this is used in two specific places, Ishikawa and Toyama prefectures.
Right, because everywhere else in Japan, the black kurotomedesode is undisputed. But in those two regions, women bypass the black entirely.
They do. They routinely wear the colored irotomedesode as their absolute top-tier formal wear.
And the reason for this regional rebellion is so cool. It's rooted in local artistry. Those areas are famous for this highly prized dyeing technique called kageyuzen, right?
Yes, kageyuzen. It's this breathtakingly intricate style of dye work. It's known for realistic depictions of nature and this very delicate ombre shading.
And the artisans there just realized a basic aesthetic truth, which is that their dye job looks way better on a colored canvas than on stark black.
Exactly. Practicality and local pride just override the national dress code. They're basically saying, look, we respect the hem pattern tradition, but our dye is a masterpiece, and we're not dulling it down on a black background.
That is such a beautiful assertion of identity. It proves these garments are worn by living communities, not just mannequins.
Right, it's a living tradition. But as we move slightly further down the formality scale into the visiting dresses, specifically the homongi and the tsukasage, we hit a structural rule that sounds simple but is an absolute nightmare for designers.
Oh, the upward-facing rule.
Yes, the tulip rule, as the seller calls it.
Both of these styles demand that every single element of the painted pattern has to face toward the sky when the garment is actually worn.
Which is incredibly difficult. Consider the geometry of draped clothing. Say you take a long roll of fabric and you stamp a tulip pattern down its entire length.
Okay, sure.
Laid flat on a table, everything looks uniform. But the second you cut that fabric and drape it over a human shoulder to create the front and back of a kimono.
Half of those tulips are suddenly upside down.
Exactly. And in formal visiting dresses, an upside-down tulip is a catastrophic failure of design.
Every flower, every bird, every single leaf has to defy the physics of the draped fabric and reach upward.
Which requires just an immense level of mathematical planning and artistic foresight from the dyer. They have to anticipate exactly where the fabric will fold and connect.
But wait, if both the homongi and the tsukasage follow this exact same upward-facing rule, how do you actually tell them apart at a glance? They seem identical.
This raises an important question about how production methods tie into prestige. The visual distinction lies in the invisible labor of their construction.
Invisible labor. Tell me about that.
So, the veteran seller explains that the prestige of the homongi comes from this staggering production method called iba date. The artisans don't just dye a flat roll of silk.
What do?
They take raw, white fabric, cut it into the exact panels of the final kimono, and loosely baste it together into a physical 3D garment first.
Wait, really? They literally build a blank white kimono before they even start?
Yes, and then they paint the intricate pattern across the active seams. So a branch of cherry blossoms will flow perfectly from the sleeve, right across the stitching and onto the chest.
That is wild.
And once the painting is flawless, they rip all the stitches out, take the panels apart, dye them, and sew them all back together for the final product.
It's an architectural marvel. You are building the garment twice just to make sure the art isn't interrupted by the seams.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the tsukasage is sold as a standard roll of fabric called a tanmono. The dyer maps out the upward-facing patterns mathematically, but they don't pre-baste the garment.
So their art is constrained by the seams rather than flowing across them.
Right. The prestige of the homongi isn't necessarily that it's fancier, but it's the immense hidden labor required to make those seams disappear.
Okay, but hearing all of this, the marital trackers, the hem-only rules, counting crests, literally sewing a garment twice to trick the eye, it sounds completely exhausting.
It really does.
If I'm a client walking into this veterans department, I'm just going to say, please, is there a simpler option? Give me the most versatile thing you have.
And he anticipated that exact feeling of overwhelm, which is precisely why his absolute best-selling garment, like the runaway hit of his 30-year career, was the Iromuji.
Ah, the solid color kimono.
Exactly. A single, beautifully dyed, solid color. No painted tulips, no flowing cherry blossoms, no insane seam calculations, just immaculate fabric.
I love that. And by just adding a single family crest to the back, it instantly transforms into this incredibly versatile, semi-formal base, right?
It's the ultimate wardrobe hack. You never have to worry about outshining a host with a loud pattern or breaking an upward-facing rule.
The single crest elevates it just enough to show respect. You can wear it almost anywhere. But here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when we step below that into casual wear?
Yeah, the tension really ratchets up here. The source highlights two primary types, koman and sumugi.
So koma is repeating patterns, basically streetwear for a nice afternoon out. But sumugi is made from spun, yarn-dyed threads. And historically, because it was woven for durability, it was strictly daily casual wear.
Right. The conflict comes from the fact that sumugi is woven, not painted. Creating complex patterns on a loom means the artisan has to dye the individual threads before weaving and then mathematically align them perfectly.
Which takes thousands of hours.
Exactly. And some regional styles, like Okinawan hanaori, are woven with such breathtaking complexity that they end up looking just as intricate and majestic as a top-tier formal temesode.
I can absolutely see the disaster brewing here. You have an artisan who spends 6 months weaving a masterpiece. It costs a fortune, looks majestic, and a client buys it and thinks, well, this is so expensive, I'm wearing this to a formal wedding.
And that assumption was a massive headache for our veteran seller. He constantly had to deal with clients bringing in these spectacular sumugi garments, demanding to wear them to formal events.
So it's sort of like, okay, imagine you commission a luxury design house to make you a pair of sweatpants.
Okay, designer sweatpants.
Right. They use the rarest cashmere, hand-stitched gold embroidery down the legs. They cost $10,000 and took a month to make. They are museum quality. And then you try to wear them to a royal wedding.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to put it.
Just because the artisan made them look incredibly fancy, I mean, you paid a fortune, it doesn't magically rewrite the dress code. Structurally, they are still sweatpants.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. The artistic ambition of the creator and the price tag cannot override the societal concept of TPO. Time, place, and occasion.
So the seller had to constantly educate his clients that wearing a spectacular casual piece to a wedding would be fundamentally embarrassing.
Gently but firmly, yes. Which actually brings us to the beating heart of this entire deep dive.
Right, because listening to these rigid boundaries, woven versus painted, black versus color, you might feel a bit suffocated. Why does the seller care so deeply? Why not just let someone wear their beautiful woven sumugi to a wedding?
To understand that, we have to look at the protocol he uses before he even allows a client to purchase a formal kimono. He doesn't just ring them up. He basically conducts a highly specific interrogation.
The level of detail he demands is staggering.
It is. He asks about their social standing, whose wedding they're attending, who is hosting, like if it's the couple or the parents.
He even asks if the venue is a traditional shrine or a modern hotel. Wait, why does that matter?
Because a shrine versus a hotel radically changes the spatial dynamics, the lighting, the historical weight of the room. He maps out all of this intelligence for one singular objective: absolute protection.
Protection from what?
He wants to ensure his customer is wrapped in a shield of flawless etiquette so they are never whispered about or pointed at.
Because the cardinal rule of formal wear in this tradition is the rule of the main character.
Right.
When you step into a formal event, you must accept that you are not the main character. The host is. The bride is.
The seller uses a very specific term here, shukui, which means congratulations or celebration. Your clothing must radiate shukuri.
So what does this all mean? You're aiming for a look that is gorgeous but deliberately modest. Your appearance is a physical manifestation of your respect for their milestone.
You cannot, under any circumstances, outshine the person you're there to celebrate, which is a huge contrast to casual wear. The seller says for casual wear, embrace total freedom, express your values, be the center of your own aesthetic universe.
Because your casual wear only implicates you. But your formal wear implicates your entire community.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the philosophy boils down to a single Japanese concept that acts as the foundation for his entire career.
Haryu.
Haryo, meaning consideration or empathy.
Empathy, exactly. In this framework, formal clothing is a profound act of empathy. It's the physical choice to intentionally place someone else's feelings, their spotlight, and their dignity above your own desire to show off.
You are dressing to make them feel honored. It completely reframes all those rigid rules we just talked about.
It does. The marital trackers, the hem-only patterns, those painstaking seams, the single crest on the uramuji, they aren't arbitrary restrictions.
No, they're highly calibrated tools designed to execute Haryo. They're the vocabulary you use to be the most supportive, considerate guest possible.
And that empathy is exactly what the veteran seller was providing. He wasn't just trading silk for cash. He was selling the peace of mind that comes from knowing you are perfectly honoring the people you care about. It is just a stunning way to view the fabric we put on our bodies. So today, we've mapped out the strict life-tracking rules of the top-tier kurotomedesode. We explored the regional pride of Ishikawa's colored dyes.
We definitely unpacked the structural nightmare of upward-facing tulips.
We did. And we found solace in the simple genius of the uramuji. And beneath it all, we discovered an entire social language built on the beautiful etiquette of consideration.
You know, taking this philosophy of Haryo, this deep consideration for others, and applying it outside the world of the kimono, offers a really provocative lens for our modern lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the spaces where we dress ourselves today, specifically in the digital world. Our social media profiles, our digital avatars, our curated feeds.
Those are our modern outfits, yeah.
Right. And currently, those spaces are entirely dominated by main character syndrome. We curate our digital selves to maximize our own spotlight, to broadcast our achievements, to ensure everyone looks at us.
Always trying to outshine everyone else.
But what would our digital spaces look like if we applied the kimono's philosophy of formal wear to them? What if, occasionally, we designed our online presence not to outshine others, but to intentionally direct the spotlight toward celebrating the community around us?
Oh, wow, that is a phenomenal question. What happens when we stop using our platforms as mirrors and start using them as gifts? It is definitely something to think about the next time you are deciding how to present yourself to the world, whether that's in silk or on a screen. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.